Good morning and welcome on a belated sunrise safari. My name is Brent Smith. Good morning and welcome on a sorry about the gremlins. We really do apologize. Fortunately, they seem to have been rectified. So a little bit of a late start. As you can see, very cloudy and overcast. That cold front we watched moving in has set in, but still quite warm. About 21 degrees Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. For us, that's quite cold. As you can see, we've got jackets and jerseys on, but I'm sure for most of you, that's quite a pleasant day in the 70s in the Fahrenheit. But unfortunately, we've patrolled long and far in the last hour that we've been off, and the only set of tracks we found was leopard crossing into Torchwood. I think those tracks are actually from those leopards the guys found there last night. It looks like Quarantine by the size to me, and Quarantine and Imvula are on a kudu kill together in Torchwood. Also, there's a report of Djuma down about 4.5 kilometers to the south of us, so he is around, just not visiting us. Unfortunately, we did a whole loop around that area that I think Karula's in, and there's still an incredible amount of elephants in there, so we weren't able to go for a walk and track in that area just yet, but we are going to slowly make our way back towards that area. There was also a report of cheetah tracks to the east of us, so we've checked our whole eastern boundary, no tracks coming in. Hopefully it might make an appearance on the sunset safari. Other than that, welcome. It is chilly and cold, as I said, for us. We're going to continue checking down. We're on our southern boundary at the moment, then we're going to head up our western boundary. Hopefully we will be able to find some tracks. So let's get going. My big plan is now we're going to do this big loop, checking all the boundaries. If we get no luck with tracks on the boundaries, we're going to pop in, maybe go visit the hyena den, or if Jamie's closer, maybe she should go visit the hyena den. And I'm just about to have a morning meeting. Excuse me, there's another vehicle approaching. Morning.
Morning, Brent.
How are you involved?
Yeah, good.
Anything on safari now?
I'm coming down with them up in
coming down for you. Thanks. Enjoy.
Come on, so that thing, but no English.
No English.
Yeah.
Okay, and come for.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
So there's just a little quick update. Only elephants, and we know where there's a few herds of elephants on Djuma already, so no tracks or anything, so I think we're going to stick to our original plan. I think those elephants might be in the region of the hyena den by the time we get into that area. An update on the lions, just in, I heard a little bit earlier that the 5 Birmingham boys have made a buffalo kill to the south and east of us, so I think we're going to be seeing them for a while. And no word on any of the lions at the moment. I haven't heard anything about the Nkahumas or the Styx Prides. Hopefully during the drive I might get some more information about that. And we have an animal with a heartbeat, thankfully. We have some impala. It has been quite slow this morning, apart from that herd of elephants we saw very early on. A little bachelor group of impala. A lot of the other animals keeping a low profile in this cold, windy weather. Enjoying the nice green flush on the grass. Well, we'll leave the impala to themselves and continue on our mission to find other animals. And not too cold, so they haven't extended their fur. Some of them have. You can see that little shiver there, wrapping themselves in a nice warm air blanket. So one of the really distinct sounds of summer is a woodlands kingfisher, and Diane's wondering, will they be back in the next few weeks? I definitely think so, Diane. I actually heard one in Hoedspruit, which is not so far from here. So there's one who's a bit early, but the rest should be arriving shortly. I think, what date are we on today? 2nd or 1st of October. I think we can expect them as a guess. I'm going to say 13th of October we'll start hearing woodlands regularly again. So what they've done is they've moved up into Central and West Africa, and there it would have been nice and wet, so there are a lot more bugs for them to eat because they're an insectivorous kingfisher. So as now we've had a little bit of rain and spring is about to end and full summer is about to arrive, there'll be a lot more kohos, which is a South African colloquialism for bugs, and so they should be arriving, I think, on the 13th of October is a safe bet. When do you think, Tim? When do you think the woodlands are going to be back? 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. So if Liam agrees, 2 weeks we should have some few woodlands kingfishers around. Majority of those, nice spot, yeah, those kingfishers though, I think will come closer to the end of October, beginning of November. And Liam has spotted a nice big kudu bull in the gap through the bush there. Doesn't look like he's feeling a bit self-conscious this morning, hasn't had a chance to groom properly, and he's moved off into the thickets there to continue feeding. Well, having seen a nice kudu bull, that reminds me of a game we haven't played for a while, and so let's do that. So the kudu bull is a traffer-legged, which is a spiral-horned antelope. Who can tell me, apart from kudu, the other 3 spiral-horned antelope that we could possibly find in the Sabi Sands? So how many other traffer-leggeds or spiral-horned antelope can we find in the Sabi Sands apart from kudu? And remember to send your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive if you're on Twitter. So while we continue to carry on down this long straight western boundary of ours, we're going to cross back across to Jamie so she can bid you good morrow.
Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to the sunrise safari. Slightly delayed start, but we are out and about and looking for all kinds of animals to show you, including our little Steenbok male here. He's been foraging around with his mate. The female is there as well, but she's quite far into this block. It's very thick. It's amazing how things have changed over the last few weeks. I'm sure Brent's touched on it, but we've had a bit of a break in the heat. It's cool and cloudy this morning, which makes for a very nice change. Still no rain though. I'm hoping it will come through in a moment, or in the next few days. There we go. Last few glimpses of our little Steenbok foraging around. Hear the crested barbets trilling away. At least the birds are out and about. A lot of the animals seem to be sleeping and tucked away in the cold. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew the aardvark on camera with me. You can see our cloudy day here on Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands. I've been doing a circuit for the last hour or so around the western edge of Djuma. I'm still looking to see, I had tracks of a female leopard yesterday around this area. So I've been looking to see if I can figure out where she went from there. Still haven't found anything. I must have missed tracks somewhere going out. But I'm going to do one more loop on the roads I haven't yet driven, and then continue on exploring the different areas. Nice thing though about this kind of weather, that a lot of the predators are mobile. So when we go through drainage lines like this one, around the areas here, keep your eyes peeled for cats of all shapes and sizes that might be moving through. It does really make for a nice change though, having a cool morning. Got my jacket, my winter jacket is now back out of where I thought I'd put it away for good for summer, but it's back out again. Let's see what we can find. Brent has shared this information with you yet. But yesterday we got an update that Mbula and Quarantine were both on Torchwood and they had a kill. I'm not sure what the kill was, but it seems as though Mbula is still there this morning. So good news for those of you, because we haven't seen him in quite a long time. It seems as though Tingana has shifted Mbula's territory right out to the east, but he is still around, which is nice news, I'm sure, for all of the regular viewers. And for those of you who are new and you're not sure what I'm talking about, Mbula is one of the dominant male leopards in this area. He's roughly just over 10 years old, or close to 11 now, and he used to be seen very regularly around Djuma. It's only in the last few months that a big male leopard known as Tingana has started really pushing Mbula out of his usual area and further towards the east. It also seems as though he was possibly sharing his kill with Quarantine. Quarantine is a young male leopard, one of the sons of Karula, and he obviously thinks himself to be the father, and there is a strong possibility that he is, which is why he's more tolerant of the company of the younger male. It's always interesting to see how those bonds seem to last in strange ways. The leopards obviously know each other, and whether or not he's right about whether he is the father, he still assumes he is, and he still recognizes it even now that Quarantine is an adult and independent of his mother. John, absolutely. I would have thought that quarantine was past the age where he should be sharing a kill with his father. He's only just sort of reaching the stage of getting to the dispersal age. Still quite young. It's about for 4 or 5 that he's really going to be kicked out of the area that he is in. But that's why I basically mentioned it, is because it is so interesting that Mbula is still being tolerant of his young male son. Then it would be interesting to see how Mbula would have reacted to a female cub, or a female of that age, or his daughter of that age. But it will get to the stage in the next year or so where both Quarantine and Djuma will be facing a time in their lives they have to move out and disperse away from the other leopards in this area. And it's a good way of preventing inbreeding, because a lot of the females in this area are related. Karula's daughters have all formed territories around here, which is why it's important that the males head out and move much further afield to find mating opportunities. But still amazing to be able to enjoy. I still haven't seen Quarantine. I'm dying to see him. I've seen Djuma once, very, very briefly at Buffelshoek Dam. But I've heard lots of stories about those two and what characters they were, or are. I would love to have a chance to see them. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that before they disappear off for good, they pay Djuma a visit so that I can get to see them. Where I last had Shadow's tracks yesterday. There's still no sign of her. I must have missed them coming out of the block somewhere. Not too sure where she's headed off to now. It is incredibly quiet this morning. It's amazing how on cloudy, windy days like this, it seems as though the game just melts into the bush and disappears. Of my hat. I think it's a little bit too windy. I'm going to lose it. Wind's howling. It's definitely bringing this cold front in. Liam yesterday showed me a picture of some of the cloud covers that's coming across the country. And it is definitely a big cold front that's on its way. Already starting to see the effects that number of elephants that we've had over the last few days, few weeks even, have had on the area. There's a lot of fresh elephant damage all around us. I'm going to find a nice example to show you. They've dug up plants, they've stripped plants, they've put a whole load of trees in the road. And if we look at this here, judging by the stump that's left in the ground, this was an enormous tree. It was a fair-sized tree, and it is completely uprooted. Most of it's gone. You can see little patches of where they've gnawed on the roots at the top there. There you go. Pulling it right out to get to the nutrients and the roots and the moisture that the roots hold. You can see it was quite a thick tree, but that is all that's left of it. And that's just one example, and we've had seemingly hundreds of elephants through. Yeah, they've dug the hole, they've kicked away the soil. And that is why elephants are so important in maintaining a balance out here in terms of tree layers and grass layers. They're a natural keystone species. They keep the balance perfectly and make sure that the bush doesn't get too thick and provide too much shade cover for the grass. Conversely, of course, there's the situation where you have an overpopulation of elephants. Now, that's not the case in a big open system like this, but in closed systems, in other reserves around the area that I've worked in, they've had to have quite a strict policy in terms of managing their elephants. And it's so hard for us to fathom because obviously there is such a decline in elephant numbers further north into Africa. But in South Africa there's a very, very healthy population of elephants, and reserves that aren't open to the rest of the areas have to implement some kind of strategy to assist with population control. And one of those is a contraception program, and you have to be very, very careful because elephants are such complex creatures. If you mess with their hormonal system, which is what scientists have discovered, you get very unexpected and strange reactions from them. The females, if you contracept females with hormonal contraception, they become, or quite often become, quite aggressive, splits the herds, and it has a very negative impact on their social structure. But the scientists have actually come up with new ways of doing it in a way that works purely on the immune response of their bodies, so it doesn't impact on their hormones at all. And it's it's a very interesting process. And reserves that I've worked on have implemented it to serious success. The only thing is with elephants is if you're dealing with a creature that lives up to 60 years old, the impacts of what we have to do in order to maintain their population might have an effect 30 or 40 years down the line, or on the next generation or the generation after that. It's such a complex process. You can also vasectomize the males, but that's also quite a highly invasive process. You've got to turn the elephant upside down with a crane. It's quite intense. You have to obviously anesthetize them, and then even then, if you vasectomize 5 out of your 6 bulls, it only takes 1 bull to then go and impregnate the females. That's much more effective to contracept the females. But then, of course, you also have to balance that on the fact that elephant babies are such a crucial part of their herd structure. You can't remove that from them completely. It's an important part of the way that they bond and the way that they learn from each other. Are hiding from us today. Even the birds are hiding. Hello, boys. Just going to shift forward a little bit, get them into a nice open spot. We're going to go that way. Hello, boys. Good morning. Hoping that one is going to come out at the back there. They're quite on edge, and I'm not sure if that's because it is so windy today that it's disrupting their senses slightly. Oh, it's a wildebeest. That's what I'm looking at. Sorry, Andrew. I just saw a dark shape off in the bushes there. I'm going to shift backwards a little bit to show you. Oh, it's very much tucked away in there. There's our boy. It's the same male we often see around this area, hanging out with some impala friends. Very common to see these two species of animal hanging out together. Extra eyes make for better defense strategies. Our animals are disappearing off into thick bush, and this whole morning all I've seen have been hyena tracks up and down the roads. And it seems as though Brent has found himself at an active hyena den site, so let's head across to him for now and I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we've made our way to the hyena den, which is active. We saw about 5 animals possibly, that are here at the moment. And here comes the little one from the right. We just make him out through the bush. Looks like some form of carcass was dragged back here. There's another one of the sort of youngsters. They're probably about 6-7 months old. The small little one, who's still quite dark, is off to the right. You can just make him out through the bush. So at least 5 hyenas around. There's another fat, sleepy one on the other side of the den. You can see losing that baby colouring now, becoming a miniature version of the adult. You see, there's that little piece of bone. As I said, looks like something was brought back to the den. I wonder what he's got there. At the moment, this is unfortunately the best view we have of the little one. I might try and move just now, but for now, this is the best spot. And the other sort of juvenile here is feeding off whatever might have been brought back. A nice cool morning for them. Just a few little bits of bone. Now, it's amazing the difference between hyena dens, and specifically the brown and spotted hyena. I mean, you will find quite a lot of little shards of bone. Oh, there we go. Isn't that awesome? One of the hyenas is calling on the other side of the den. Let's try go around quickly. Murphy's Law, by the time we get there, they'll keep quiet, but hopefully they'll call again. Stopped calling, but almost all of them have moved to the other side of the den, except for one sub-adult who took that little piece of bone and disappeared off into the bush that way. Can't really see what's going on. We do have one very fat, happy looking hyena there, just off the front of the vehicle. I'm just gonna, okay. I'm gonna try and move around there so we can actually see the entrance to the den as well. It looks like there's another hyena lying there. Hold on, Vim. Elephants have done some serious gardening around here. So it looks like the little one's suckling. So we've got the one lying next to us, and then the other lying at the entrance to the den above, with the cub suckling. Really nice open den site. Nice relaxed morning at the hyena den. Everyone looks very well fed. And a nice cool day like this will give them a respite from the flies, so the flies won't be as active. And there you can see those pseudo testes. I'm quite sure, just judging from the size, that this is a female, and you can see how that can very much look like a pair of testicles, even though it's not. So that is an enlarged anal gland that is used for scent marking. And hyenas will vigorously scent mark the clan's territory. Obviously, with around the den there'll be a lot of scent marks, but on the edges of their territory they'll use latrines. So a hyena latrine where they'll all defecate in a certain area, as well as anal pastings on grass. And these will be patrolled probably weekly by the clan members, and they defend those clan boundaries with extreme prejudice. So unlike lion and leopard territories where the boundary lines can be a bit blurred and there's lots of overlap between them, hyenas have a very defined territory, and they will defend it, as I said, with extreme prejudice against other hyenas. Heads up down here next to us. Oh, and head down. Maybe heard something, just lifted her head for a second. You can see had a big meal, big fat belly, heavy breathing, digesting all that protein. So as we can see, there's a few hyenas around, and a few cubs around, and Eye of the Tiger is wondering if one of these other females was pregnant and was going to give birth, would she use the same den? And sometimes female hyenas will give birth at a sort of a den a little bit away from the main den, and then within a day or two we'll bring them through to the main den. So yes, she would. And obviously safety in numbers, and quite often there will be a sub-adult or an adult sort of playing nursery maid. So hyenas are communal denners, but they are exclusive sucklers. So a female will only let her brood or offspring feed from her. She will not communally suckle, which is something an animal like lions do. So lions, if multiple females have cubs at the same time, they will let all the cubs from the pride suckle, whereas hyenas will only let their own cubs suckle. See those clouds moving above the den, and out of all the social predators, hyenas have one of the more complex social structures, being the only truly matriarchal society out here in the bush, and the females are often 20 to 30 kilograms larger than the males. And even the lowest ranking female is higher ranking than the highest ranking male. And the other interesting thing about hyenas is that their matriarchal line and hierarchy is sort of a dynasterial one, so like a dynasty, and they will pass on their rank to their offspring. And sometimes that can be a little bit complicated with obviously a matriarchal hyena having multiple cubs throughout her life, but it would generally be the oldest and matriarchal's first daughter that will take over if she dies. And very much a sisterhood, with males being very downtrodden and beaten in hyena society. Sorry guys, just gonna let the other game drivers know the hyena den is active. Nisikaya off Aubrey's Road is active. Well, when I say active, there are hyenas present, but they're definitely not very active hyenas at the moment. Oh, here we go. We've got a little bit of movement. And decided that sandy patch was time to move on. Does it look like there's something wrong with her mouth there, Viam?
Yeah, there was something hanging out, I don't know.
Or was it maybe just a little stick or something that got... Let's try to have a look. You can see there's something there. I'm not sure whether it's a possible injury. Nah, it's just a leaf. Oh, are we going to get a bit of greeting? Nope. Looking for a new spot to lie down by the looks of things, and flop. Let's move a little bit, and now that she's moved from that spot, we can get a little bit closer to the others that are sitting at the entrance to the den. While we move around to get into a better spot, we're going to cross to Jamie quickly.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And I've just stopped right next to this huge marula tree to show you something very cool. Now, we see these animals doing it a lot, but we never really stop and look at what's left behind. So I'm just south of Treehouse Dam now, and we see these buffalo wandering through, wallowing in the mud, and we often see them then walking away covered in mud. And we've all seen the buffalo rubbing up against the sides of the tree, and we've seen elephants do it as well. And this is what they leave behind. This is a very regularly used marula tree. Goes all the way up to just over the top of my head. Maybe hop out for a moment and see if we can find stuff to look at within it. But just picture an elephant covered in mud coming through here and rubbing the side of their bodies against this. It's right up to here. And they rub their sides, rub their ears, and even leave little bits of hair and fiber in the mud. Just little bits. I can't even get it out. It's a little bit dry now. But there are bits of hair stuck in here. You can just picture them in your mind, having a really nice scratch. There's lots and lots of layers of it. This is a regularly used favorite rubbing post. All the way from the little warthogs who come all the way down, and then the buffalo, and up to the elephant size. It's one of their favorite patches to be, quite clearly. You've got nice layers and different levels as they've come through. One of the things I was looking for that I can't seem to find is quite often when you find these mud rubbing posts, just like this one, you also get to see the little parasites and ticks that the buffalo have rubbed off in there. Generally not with elephant, which might explain why we can't see it here. But you get to see them trapped in the mud, and that's how they help to get rid of all of their itchy points on their mud rubbings. It all tells a story. So next time you see an elephant or a buffalo scratching against a tree, which we see on a regular basis almost every day, then just imagine what it is they are leaving behind as they both get rid of the itches and scratches as well as helping to cool them down. And these marula trees are perfect for just that. Whilst we carry on, let's chat a little bit about this rather special tree. I hope you paid close attention to the bark. It's something I didn't mention, but maybe we should just have a look at the bark quickly, just while I'm thinking about it. Have a look at the way that the bark peels off in layers like that. And that's very typical of a marula tree. Looks similar to a false marula, but the false marula patches are slightly bigger. And whenever you see bits, it's almost like it's been, I had it once described to me like it's been scooped out with an ice cream scoop or a spoon. Bark's just been scraped away. These trees are so useful for the animals out here. And in the next few weeks, we're going to see them being targeted more and more by the various things like elephants and the monkeys, and that's because they're going to start fruiting soon. I suspect this one might be a male, but they do come with female and males on separate trees, therefore you get fruit on only some of the trees. And they are very, very high in vitamin C content. Very valuable fruits at a time when everything starts to get a little bit dry again. Alrighty, whilst I continue on my search for the various animals, Brent is still with those magical hyenas, so let's head across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back. So we're sitting with the other two hyenas here, the ones that were behind the one lying close to us. As you can see, the cub is suckling, but there's still not much action happening. So we've just been talking a little bit about hyena hierarchy, and Yummy Sphinx is wondering, how do female hyenas move up in the hierarchy? Is it by fighting? That is possible, but generally, as I said, the matriarch is the matriarch, and she'll generally be the biggest, and her daughters will inherit her title. So it's one of those difficult questions, which came first, the chicken or the egg? But I think there is a possibility there might be a little bit of pushing between the different females, but generally the matriarchs stay the matriarch, and they tend to have a little bit more testosterone, so they're more aggressive and they are slightly bigger. There are quite a few hyena clans in this general area, and John from California is wondering why the clan just to the west of us and the area just to the west of us can support a clan of 17 and not Djuma. Is this just happenstance? Well, you'll find that with a lot of these things that the clan sizes will change over time and whatnot, and they'll go through periods of birth peaks and not so much birth peaks. But I think the Djuma clan is probably not too far off 17 in total. I mean, I've seen 8 adults together, and it's uncommon to see all of them in the same place at once. So, a very good, interesting question, John, and I'm not 100% sure. In terms of what the bush and stuff is like, it's almost identical between the two areas. So, maybe that clan's just going through a better time at the moment. There's more food around there, but I don't think so. So as you can see, we're sitting quite close to these hyenas, and Andrew Sands, who we think is possibly a new viewer all the way from down under in Canberra, Australia, is wondering how dangerous are they to humans. Well, that's a very interesting question. Normally, absolutely not at all. So from a vehicle like this, as you can see, absolutely no threat. Even if you're walking through the bush, no threat. At night, even then, not really a threat. The only time hyenas are a real danger to humans is if you are silly and fall asleep with your door open. They will take advantage of you when you are asleep or obviously injured. But hyenas have been scavenging off humans or hominids since there have been humans and hominids. So they've had a long history, and modern day hyenas evolved at about the same time we did, which is between 160 and 200,000 years ago. And we're quite messy eaters, and we would leave a lot of bones and rubbish and have those sort of middens, they're called now, of all our food and our waste. I think these days we call them rubbish dumps, but if in paleoanthropological terms, called middens. So, and hyenas would have obviously utilized this as a food source, and they still do that today. So they have quite a slightly different relationship with us to a lot of animals. They actively will seek out human habitation because we are so messy and wasteful to take advantage of our middens. But they can be dangerous also to small children, but to an adult human, unless you're asleep or very badly injured, they're not a danger at all. And it doesn't look like they have moved an inch. So guys, why don't you let me know what we should do? Should we stay with the sleeping hyenas, or should we move on? And you can let us know on Twitter at #SafariLive, or on email at questions@wildearth.tv. Now, having chatted about how it's very much a matriarchal society, and the females are bigger, and they've got those pseudo-testes and pseudo-penis. It's quite interesting. Up until about the 1940s and 50s, most people considered hyenas to be hermaphrodites, which is obviously not true. They just have very, very different genitalia, or the females have very different genitalia from the females of most other species. most definitely a female we're looking at there as her cub suckles, and Carol's wondering where are all the males. Well, Carol, they're around. There could be, what happens quite often with a den like this is a lot of the animals will be lying up in close vicinity, especially on a day like this, but they could be up to 50-60 meters apart, or if they've been out foraging far from the den, they'll often just find a bush to bed down in for the night. So the males are around, but none currently at the den. So we've just got that female. Is that other female still sleeping in the hole she dug on the other side? So there was one that was right next to us, and she's just moved a little bit, and we'll try and get you a view. She's under that red bush willow there. Liam's going to try see if you can spot her through the grass. So you can just make out her body. There she is. So you'll probably find within 200-300 meters of us, there's quite a few hyena that'll be sleeping like that under a bush. And with the males, because of the females being here, they will come around the den quite often, but they will try not spend too much time there because they do get beaten by the ladies quite often. So definitely not the best life being a male hyena. But it is always wonderful to be able to have a den, and we get to see such interesting behavior around the den, although they are not doing it this morning. They are very much sleeping, and it is that type of weather. It is sort of cuddle down and climb under a blanket weather, but the hyenas have seemed to have got the right idea, and that's obviously, of course, because they've been feeding well. You can see most animals we've seen here are really well fed, and there was that youngster who had some bones that he was eating, so there probably was a carcass that was brought back here in the last sort of 24 hours. So Virginia from Kentucky, who's very sharp this morning, has noticed all this grass on the termite mound, and it's very pretty, that white tuft. It's called chorus grass, and it actually grows on top of, almost always on termite mounds. So when you see a nice big termite mound, you will find this grass there. And Virginia would also like to know, is there any use for it? Or a few animals will browse on it. It is not a great in terms of nutrient grass species, but I've seen elephants eat it, I've seen buffalo eat it, so it is browsed or grazed on by a few species, but it is of no huge importance to any of the mammals. Fluttering in the wind. So, you guys have spoken, and Viam and I shall listen. Not much action happening at the hyena den, so we're going to move on to see what else we can find. Bye-bye, hello hyenas. I'm just going to let the game guys know I'm leaving. If Nisikaya or Aubrey's is active, I'm leaving it with FM, Nisikaya off Aubrey's head. So, I think we're going to have another little gamble at Madame Karula. I know she's hiding in there somewhere, and we're not going to give up till we find her. Those of you who are not sure who Madame Karula is, if you're a new viewer, she's one of the females that the Wild Earth team has viewed over many years, and quite often referred to as the Queen of Djuma, and I think she's hiding in this myriad of little drainage lines and ravines that is just down to the east of us. So we're going to go drive around the edge of that. And we're on a live sunrise safari. We're just leaving the hyena den, and hopefully the morning has still got lots in store for us. So we've got some questions in from the antelope quiz, some answers from the antelope quiz. Oh, and it sounds like everyone's forgotten. So there are some correct ones, but someone said impala, which is not a spiral-horned antelope. They do not have those curves around the edge of the horns. They have those ribs around the horns, so not a spiral-horned antelope. But a lot of you did get it right. Linda, Georgian, and a few others. And the other trafalgarids or spiral-horned antelopes that occur in the Sabi Sands are Inyala, bushbuck, and one we don't really see too often. I've never seen one in the Sabi Sands myself personally, but I have heard of them being seen towards the Kruger Park boundary, and that is eland. So while we move back into the area where I'm convinced Karula is hiding, we're going to cross across to Jamie for a little bit, and you can see what she's been up to.
Welcome back, everybody. And I am currently sitting at Twin Dams, which was originally Twin Dams. Then it went to Twin Mud, and it's now basically Twin Dried Mud. There's absolutely no water left at all. Now just picture this place a couple of months ago that was full of catfish. There were catfish swimming everywhere, and then as it started to shrink, they were all wriggling in the mud, much like they're doing now at Djuma Dam. And now just have a look at this expanse of churned up mud, and somewhere underneath that all there are living catfish tucked away in the mud, hiding in their mucus layers with little breathing holes. It's actually really hard to imagine that there are living fish under there. It's incredible to think about. And I see that the elephants have been through here at some point recently. They've churned up the mud and deposited some fresh dung as well. So they've been through here. And you can imagine being a catfish with 5 tons of elephant walking over you. I wonder what the percentage of them actually survive from those that duck under and hide themselves in the mud to escape these dry seasons. And even though we've got a little bit of relief from the hot temperatures we've been experiencing, this area should average about 500 mils of rain a year, if not more. And we got a better hope that we get it, because last year it was probably about 100 mils or so of rain that we got on average, between 100 to 150, so about a fifth of what we should have had. And if we face another dry season now, then things like the poor catfish who are hiding away in the hopes of rain are going to struggle to survive for another dry season. Alrighty, well, it's all quiet here at Twin Dams. I think let us continue on with our mission. I think I'm going to take a trip down into the Mawati, see what's happening there. The sun is bravely peeking through the clouds. It seems to be trying, which is good news. But I think we're going to be in for a couple of cloudy days. think they're busy raiding the various pieces of dung for termites. They're looking a little bit windswept as well, like most of the animals out here. One on the right's definitely got something in his beak. What have you got? I love watching them run. There's something so prehistoric about it. We so often see them perched and flying, but I love watching the way that their little legs work. Ooh, caught something. After the termites in the dung, I think. What's that one got in its beak that it still hasn't swallowed? Is it a leaf or something? Can't quite see from here. It's clutching it, but no swallowing. Now it's interesting at this time of year, with bonded pairs like these two red-billed hornbills. So they are completely monogamous, and at the courting time, breeding time, the male starts to offer the female food as a way of showing her what a good provider he is. And that's because very soon she's going to disappear into a hole somewhere in a tree. They're going to block her up together with mud and saliva, and she's basically going to be trapped in there. She loses her primary feathers, her flight feathers, her tail feathers. She lays her eggs, and she incubates them, and she sits on them. And she is completely reliant on her mate for food. That's why if we get a chance to see one hornbill offering food to another, it's the male proving that he's going to be a good provider whilst during her time of internment in the hollow of a tree. Shifted off the road. The hornbills are clever that way. So you can imagine if she loses her feathers and she tucks herself away in a hole in the nest, what happens then if her male mate gets struck by something like a goshawk and can't bring her food anymore? Well, luckily, very often, she will have last year's offspring who will also be giving a hand in terms of feeding her. So even if something happens to the male, she'll still have a source of food until her feathers grow back, and then she can break out of the nest and return to helping to care for the chicks. Hornbills are amazing creatures. We don't always stop to really examine them properly. They've got such complex little worlds that they live in.